edition of Devout Deism. I am your host, David Robertson. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Thank you for being a part of the conversations. I've gotten into some interesting debates. And I don't even know if it's a debate. I don't know if that's a fair way to look at that. In deism, it's not so much a debate as it is maybe perhaps an expansion of knowledge and information, sharing ideas. Yes, there are instances where we will debate, but I look at it more as a sharing of information, which is vital. And I think that's one of the things that I want to address today. What is deism? Where do we start? Well, I mean, deism as a whole has its foundations, and then of course it expands for a lot of deists. A lot of deists start off as classical deists, mainly because a lot of people who find deism are coming over from a background of revealed religion. And the best way, well, maybe not even the best way, but perhaps the normal path, if you will, starts in classical deism, and then of course it expands from there as their information and their knowledge base, I guess, increases. So that's where I kind of want to start. There's a lot of people who are probably watching these videos who maybe aren't familiar with deism, so I'm going to approach this from an education standpoint, I guess, to help develop those ideas. Those of you who are deists and who are watching these videos, you know, bear with me and try to, you know, give me a little a little leniency as I try to describe this. So first, let's start with what is deism. Of course, you know, it's always a good idea to look things up for yourself, so I encourage you to do that. But Encyclopedia Britannica, 1958, has three definitions. One, the belief in the existence of a personal God based solely on the testimony of reason and rejecting any supernatural revelation, natural religion. Two, the belief God created the world and set it in motion, subject to natural laws, but takes no interest in it. And three, the belief in the first cause, which is not intrinsically perfect or complete, and therefore not a proper object of worship. Now, of course, these ideas are varied. And you talk to one deist and ask their opinion or their idea of what deism is, it will vary from deist to deist. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. Each one of us has different backgrounds, different education, different insight, different, I guess, desires when it comes to learning. Therefore, the interpretation of what their deism is will vary. So take that for what it's worth. Webster's Encyclopedia Dictionary, 1941, defines deism as the doctrine or creed of a deist, quote, one who believes in the existence of a God or supreme being, but denies revealed religion, basing his belief on the light of nature and reason. So automatically you can begin to see kind of a pattern here. It's based on nature, it's based on reason. And we all have different understandings of what that is. The overall view of deism is the use of reason as the foundation and experience and nature as the basis of belief. Now, classical deism is kind of a root because that's where it starts. All right, we're talking hundreds of years ago. Classical deism was defined by Lord Hubert, 1648, and was one of the earliest proponents of deism in England. His book from 1624 described the 5 articles of English deists. 1, belief in the existence of a single supreme God. 2, humanity's duty to revere God. 3, the linkage of worship with practical morality. 4, God will forgive us if we repent and abandon our sins. And 5, good works will be rewarded and punished for evil, both in life and after death. So you can see right there that from a revealed religion standpoint, moving over into deism, there is that I guess, idea that God intervenes. And you see that a lot in classical deism. And when you think about the foundation of the United States, you know, I'll address that quite a bit in all of my videos, both Devout Deism and, of course, in an American Warning TV, where I talk about the founders, their deistic beliefs, and how it was influenced, how deism influenced the foundation of the United States. This is broadly the beliefs of Jefferson and Franklin as well. And of course, there is much debate. I've been in numerous debates over the Deist foundation of the founding fathers of the United States, where Ben Franklin and Jefferson had a variety of different quotes talking about different forms of religion. But if we look at Ben Franklin, there's a letter to Ezra Stiles in 1790, what deism is all about. And here's what he says. "Here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped, that the most acceptable service we can render him is doing good to his other children. That the soul of man is immortal and will be treated with justice in another life, respecting its conduct in this. These I take to be the fundamental principles of all sound religion." And that's important to note, okay? Once again, deist beliefs will vary, all right? There are some deists who obviously do not believe that God has an interventional hand. But there are some who do, and that's fine. I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. I'm just addressing that so people understand, once again, that the belief system of deism does vary. I mean, you've got pandeism, for crying out loud. You've got classical deism, modern deism. Classical deism, however, sees God as separate from his creation. And I think that's important to note. Some deists see design in nature, and through this design, they also see purpose in the universe and in their lives. Others see God and the universe in a co-creative process, while others see God as a subtle and persuasive spirit. Of course, there are many other views in this realm as well. And once again, and let me just reiterate for the sake of argument here, there is classical deism and there is modern deism. There are many different subsects of deism, and that's, once again, it's fine. And you can see varying splits like that in many other religions. For crying out loud, if you look at Christianity, of course, it started with, as far as organized religion, you saw the Catholic Church, which split into Eastern Orthodox, which split into plenty of others. You have classical, and then of course it splits. But this is all based on education, background, etc. And I'm gonna get into that here in a second. Classical deism sees the necessity of God as the first cause. The being that set everything in motion, the motive or the power behind all creation. Classical deists do believe that God can and has had an interventional way about him, at least in part. Once again, going back into the founders, where they also believe that. Of course, classical deism at that time wasn't classical deism at that time. I mean, it was expanding as knowledge increased. Ben Franklin, I think, was a great, spiritual leader in the idea that he thought, for instance, electricity. I mean, the whole flying a kite with the key. He was doing that because he believed that, well, let me back up a little bit. A lot of people at that time believed that thunder and lightning was God's wrath, or there was something about God. He was not happy with something, so he was letting it be known that he wasn't happy. But Franklin knew, he just believed in his heart of hearts that there was a natural reason for thunder and lightning. And he sought out to do it. And that was a big part of what the whole kite and key situation was. But, of course, by doing so, he discovered electricity, which was amazing. And, of course, you'll see that a lot throughout deism. You'll see these amazing people who believed just in their heart of hearts that there was a natural reason for what was going on. It wasn't just something obscure, saying that, oh, God, that's just the way God wants it. No, what is the reason? There is a natural reason behind it. You could look at like Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, for crying out loud, boldly questioning what we knew and developing these amazing theorems and I guess rules that come along with it. So even still, there are some believe that this intervention happens by way of instinct, nature's reaction to given stimuli. So that's kind of actually where I fall. One of my personal beliefs is that, there is an intervention to an extent, but to me, we are given these weird instincts where we just have this thing inside of us that says, it's supposed to be this way, or a lot of people will look at, maybe driving down the road. You're driving down the road, all of a sudden you get this uneasy feeling. You don't necessarily know what that is, but you listen to it. Some people don't, but for those who do, normally they feel rewarded by having listened to that instinct. You could look at mother's intuition, for crying out loud. There are certain things that we have been given, not necessarily that it's an intervention per se. It's not God coming down and saying, look, David, do it this way. It's, okay, here's a feeling. Listen to it or don't, but the repercussion will be dictated by your action here. Of course, that goes into my prior video where I talk about free will and the ability to decide based on that stimuli. And once again, and as we've seen, if you look into the comment section of my video of free will, you'll see that there's even debate in that, and that's fine, and it's encouraged. So obviously today deism has changed, and there are furthered, I guess, and varying beliefs within the faith. For contrast, and to illustrate just how varied deism can truly be, modern deism incorporates the latest interpretations found in the areas of physics, quantum physics, biology, evolution, philosophy, theology, psychology, mathematics, and many other fields in the arts and sciences. However, the modern deist movement is a dynamic concept in that it integrates classical and modern viewpoints with the wisdom of the past and the discoveries of the present. So more or less what that's saying there, and I pulled that right off of Modern Deist, by the way. What they're saying there is, as education, as our understanding of the universe increases, obviously we're finding out new things, which alters a little bit kind of how we're viewing it. How God interacts with us or doesn't interact with us or what have you. So that's just something to keep in mind. Something to note, however, is that not everyone knows everything about physics or quantum physics, biology, evolution, philosophy, theology, psychology, mathematics, etc. So we have to understand that just with that, the belief in deism, I guess, varies depending on who you talk to or what they know. And this is why learning, I believe, is so vital when one takes the road of deism. If you consciously make a decision to turn to deism, you're kind of making a promise to yourself to learn, to open your mind, to expand not only your thought process, but to kind of open up your heart into different areas of belief, or the belief, I should say. And like I said, I think that's the beauty of deism, because through reason, we can expand and improve on the belief, and we can become even more devout deists by doing so, by expanding and by absorbing information. One's not held to any particular classification. As, like, say you start out as a classical deist, the more you acquire, the more your understanding of deism increases. You're going to start to sway away from classical deism. In fact, it would work the other way. Let's say you walked into modern deism, but there was something that just wasn't right for you. As you expand into deism, and as your knowledge of the world around you expands, you're able to kind of flow from maybe modern deism into pandeism or what have you. And that's important. I think that's one of the most amazing things about deism. And today, you're not going to find a majority, I guess, in the classical deism classification. But being the foundation, I would say, of deism, often many deisms start as a classical as they transition from revealed religion into deism. Soon, though, they quickly fall somewhere on the wide spectrum of deism. Once again, and I've referenced this just here recently, once again, they'll maybe swing over into pandeism or into modern deism or what have you. And once again, it's that individual's reasons, their backgrounds, their education that helps dictate that path. For me, my personal deistic beliefs are influenced by quite a bit. Being a mentor and being a reverend, just so you understand, a lot of people may not understand this. I did start out in Christianity, became a reverend, and in deism, I would, not necessarily an equivalent, I don't know exactly how to explain that, maybe that's another video, but being a reverend is similar to being a mentor. We're researched, and we help others kind of find their own path. I don't dictate anything. Here's some information, something maybe you haven't considered. Have you looked into this? And then kind of help find what's best for them. That's the thing, being researched and having a strong understanding of many different religions and theology in general. I'll have bits and pieces of classical deism and modern deism and pandeism and what have you. And that's just what works for me. And for me, I just call myself a deist. I don't really even subject myself to a subclassification because it is so varied. And that's, once again, fine. And I think a lot of people respect me for that, and that's great. I personally enjoy all deistic beliefs. And I find that as a whole, deists are highly intellectual people. And when you get a couple deists together, just even for a basic conversation, it's like you could solve almost anything because of the openness and varied ideas, I think, that come from all of them. Deists celebrate diversity and individuality, and I think that that's a very important aspect of deism. We recognize, even I think between two deists, the differing of details of our backgrounds, of our education, what have you. And because of that, everything that we are is different. So we celebrate that in a lot of ways. Our influences, our education, our positions, they alter with perspective, and individual perspective. Not everyone is the same, and we recognize that and we celebrate that. But in turn, our individual foundations of reason vary. Therefore, our perspective or our frame on deism and what our ultimate faith is will differ. And that's the beauty of it, and this is the important aspect, that entire premise right there is why deism as a whole is nothing more than perpetual growth in the knowledge of what we believe to be God. So, I hope this has helped. I hope this helps and even those, because there are some deists who maybe don't even realize they're deists. But hopefully, this helps a little bit. So that's it. Be a part of the conversation. Share with your friends and family, those who you think are intellectual enough to handle the information, obviously. Like the videos you like, dislike the ones you don't. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for being involved in the conversation and for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of Devout Deism. We'll see you next time.